Tara, really too many things to really talk about when it comes to these escalating tensions between China and the U.S. on so many different fronts. How are businesses in Hong Kong preparing for this new era where we're really not expecting any de-escalation from here?
Well, it's interesting because one of the best things about Hong Kong, one of the things that made it fantastic to do business is that it is in the middle of everything. It is a great city for connectivity. Now, that type of being in the middle of everything, i.e. being in the middle of a trade war and rising tensions, is not such an easy feeling anymore, especially since the national security law was passed in Beijing. We've just done a survey of our membership on the national security law, and the level of concern between concerned and extremely concerned is at 75% of our membership. So that says a lot.
So, of course, we could potentially see sanctions coming from the U.S. on the Hong Kong Autonomy Act, right? So because of that new security law, what sort of preparations are businesses making at the moment? And can they make preparations, especially when it comes to this particular law, given how vague and broad it is?
Well, one of the biggest concerns about the law, which came out in the survey that we just conducted, was the ambiguity of it. Makes it very difficult to predict what the implementation will be, and also makes it very difficult to prepare because it's hard to predict. So that makes people nervous. And on the other hand, Hong Kong has been going through a rough time now for a year. The protests, which really rocked the streets of Hong Kong, have been underway since last summer. So people are getting used to building risk scenarios in Hong Kong and not being very quiet, though, about how they perceive things. One thing that we did notice as well in terms of our latest survey, people are more comfortable speaking anonymously. They don't want to speak out. We've seen some very difficult experiences from some companies who have spoken out. I think of the cafe issue well before the national security law and other things. So the anonymous comments show that people are concerned, maybe worried about their own safety, but they're not just picking up and pulling out of Hong Kong yet. Hong Kong has too many benefits for business, and many people have been there for a long, long time.
There is that level of self-censorship almost, right, Tara, that we're starting to see come through almost immediately after the implementation of the new bill. I am wondering, it's that great uncertainty that you hit on, right? How difficult is it for the longer term, even if businesses are saying that they're staying put now, maybe because they don't want to be seen as the first, a global bank or the first sort of financial services company to relocate the Asian headquarters away from Hong Kong. It's not a good look to look like you're abandoning the city, right? But that uncertainty as to how this broad law can be implemented against your staff, against your business, does that ultimately mean that Hong Kong doesn't remain a feasible or attractive place to do business?
Well, again, I go back to the survey because of its anonymous nature. It may give the comments around what you're asking. And people are saying in the short term, no plans to leave. In the medium to long term, people may be leaving in larger numbers. And what we did notice from our previous survey, which was done a month ago, that the number of people who say they would consider leaving has risen somewhat. So it is a difficult time, but we do need to remember that Hong Kong serves a great purpose, and there are very few, if any, substitutes for Hong Kong in terms of providing a major international capital market smack in Asia. Singapore can't take that over with the snap of a fingers. The flow of money that comes through Hong Kong is absolutely huge. The connectivity between East and West at Hong Kong is still huge. So that can't disappear overnight. We would expect that if there is a deep change over the coming years, it may take some time unless we see some event that makes it all seem more urgent. And I will just add that also the U.S. reaction to the national security law could have an impact as well.
Very quickly, Tara, conversely, have you heard anyone say that they're sort of happy with this national security law in that it gives a bit more certainty in terms of at least getting the protesters off the streets?
Yes, there is a sizable minority, a slice, who really felt the national security law was necessary, and it has at least cleared up the streets and stopped the violent protests. People were very upset about that, and so they see this as good. It also shows what a divided place Hong Kong actually is as well.